I grew up in a household that the subject of God and the name Jesus was never even mentioned. Growing up, I was abused by a stepfather. Long story short, I left home early. I left home at really 13 to live with my biological father, who was in and out. He was in and out of my life. By 15 years old, I was working full-time construction. I couldn't go to school because I had to support myself. I felt hopeless, and that led me to a life of crime, a life of violence and drugs and alcohol. And I was put in prison two different times. And about 3.5 years ago, I came to know Jesus. And I got saved by myself in a prison cell one night. And when before my release, I prayed to God to surround me with Christians when I was released. I was paroled to a halfway house called the Potter's House. And it's faith-based. It's a faith-based recovery center, basically. And they would let me go out to work, and that's how I met this guy. He came and got a couple of us to help him demo a house he had bought. And I worked for him for a couple of weeks before I knew he was a pastor. He's so down to earth. That's what attracted me, because I could relate to him, he could relate to me. You know, it's different as our backgrounds are. I felt like I could relate to him, and he became my friend, you know, a good friend. And now I feel like he's my best friend.
Amen. You know, I just was so impressed with Brian's hard work. You know, he was like, no nonsense. And I said, there's something different. And I told Steph about him. I said, man, this guy Brian, I said, we may need to look at bringing him, you know, trying him. Oh, honey, you've tried people. But she's very compassionate, like me. Said, well, if you feel that, I said, well, just come on over. You got to get to meet him. She is around him one day, and she's like, got home, oh my God, I really believe we need to invest in him. You know, I get choked up thinking about it. But, you know, Brian, you know, he just is loyal, and he's a protector. And a lot of times the enemy uses that against you. And I know a lot more of his history, and a lot more of his history was more of a protector that got him in trouble than him causing it. And hearing a lot of I got to know him, he started revealing a lot of his background to me. And, you know, I had to ask him. He's not one of these guys that's going to tell you. But it took him a little while to get to trust me. And man, I just heard of all the things he went through as a child, and even as an adult, you know. It is amazing he's alive. And to see it, and when he started telling me about giving his life to the Lord and all those things, I was like, man, God's got a purpose for you. God's got a plan. He's got a plan for everybody. He had a plan for every one of those guys I ever tried. But I said, Brian, there's something special, you know, about you. And just to watch the way he carried himself, and I knew here's a guy that if he just had a break, you know, he could change the world for himself.
And I think being abused made me angry, made me live an angry life. I was always on the defensive. I always thought somebody was out to get me, you know. But most of the time, I'd be the problem, you know. I'd be the problem, because I just never had any family, any sense of family. I raised myself, and I spent all these years alone. Until I came to Bethel. And for the first time since I walked through these doors, I felt like I had a home, and it's been home ever since. Just the way I was accepted. You know, I didn't know a soul in Lexington, much less this church. And it's like people genuinely wanted to know me. You know, as a person like me, they didn't pass judgment on. They didn't ask me a lot about my past, you know. They just accepted me for who I am. But I was uncomfortable with people hearing about my past, and I expected to be treated differently. But I'll be damned if I wasn't treated better.
Come on, that's right.
And I love everybody here for it. That's where my Christianity's grown, is to have compassion for people. I never had compassion before. No empathy whatsoever. I lived a life of hopelessness. And now I feel like I have compassion for people. And that allows me to grow according to who's around me. That's why I've surrounded myself with Christians. That's really made the difference. I've got a wonderful church family here now. I met my soulmate, my wonderful wife, right here. And I ain't going nowhere. I didn't deserve the love of God. If anyone didn't deserve it, it was me. Or so I thought. I walked through life for 46 years as an unbeliever. But I learned that just because I didn't believe in him didn't mean he didn't believe in me. He's been with me the whole time, and I realize that now. And everything had to happen for a reason. And everything had to bring me right here. I went from hopeless to hopeful, from loveless to full of love. I've never dreamed of being this happy before. Never dreamed of being this happy. Being around this church environment has shown me the grace of God, taught me what that is. I never knew what that was. Now I understand what the grace of God is. He's given me all this. So if that's not grace, what is?